Greetings, gamers. I'm Bedron.
I'm Naomi.
And I'm Shukapow.
And you're listening to Very Good Music,
a VGM podcast.
Hello once again, everybody. And before we get started here, I just want to give everyone a heads up. There was a little bit of an issue on the sound in the first little section of this show. So Shukapow is going to be notably absent. I have basically gone in and salvaged most of the conversation. Much of it was just Naomi introducing herself and kind of what we were talking about anyway. So not really that huge of a deal. And most of the episode is going to go on like normal. Also, stick around at the end of the show, and I am going to give a few little updates, tips, things to be looking forward to in 2021. But for now, so in this episode, we were very excited to be joined by a lovely, lovely person who I first met on the Super Mercado Bros Discord, the Mercado Fam Discord as we call it, and that is Naomi. Naomi is an artist, and I, of course, really enjoyed the art that was done by Ben the Dyad Dishman and Kung Fu Carlito, Carlos Leon Roman, who designed our pixel portraits and then our drawn personas, respectively, for the show. But when I wanted to get something to serve as like the icon, the official show art, I kind of wanted to branch out a little bit more to somebody else, but I knew I wanted to keep it in the podcasting community. I did initially reach out to Carlos, knowing that Ben has been really, really, really busy lately, and Carlos mentioned that he doesn't have a whole lot of experience in logo design. He made a few recommendations, but eventually I kind of made my own way to Naomi's work through her contributions to the Creative Corner in the Mercado Discord, which she talks about a little bit. So, coming off of the heels of our bonus episode 3, the 2-part tribute to VGM podcasters, it was really great to do this kind of short and sweet tribute, compared to the other shows we do, with our new favorite artist. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself now.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me on. And I just want to say, I think it's so great that you do put so many things together with the community like that, because when I originally joined, I think, it was the Mercado Brothers Discord, where you saw my art. I joined because I was a fan of the podcast and wanted to engage more with other folks who are listening. And, they do a lot of listener engagement episodes and stuff like that. And I didn't realize that, once I got on the Discord, they have like a creative corner channel in there. And I'm not actually a musician. I'm like kind of trying to teach myself piano right now. But I haven't played music for a really long time. But I'm an artist. That's what I do for my job. And I do like to draw a lot of stuff that is kind of in the video game fan art realm as well. So it was probably a month or two of being in that chat room before I was started to feel comfortable that maybe I could start posting some of my art in that Creative Corner channel as well. Because there are a couple other people you mentioned, Carlos, Kung Fu Carlito, in the chat room. And a couple other people have been posting drawings in there. And so I thought, this is a cool place where I can show some of my art and also get inspired by other people in the chat room who are like not only doing art, but are just really enthusiastic about their favorite games and their favorite soundtracks. And so that would give me ideas of like who I could draw for practice or just for fun. That's always fun when I get a recommendation for somebody about a character I can draw and play around with.
That's really cool. And that sounds like it was pretty good practice for, the work you eventually did for us. We talk about that a little bit later. I really admired your work a lot early on. And so you are also a webcomic artist. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. So I'm a comic artist based in Portland, Oregon. And I make my own comic, which is a fantasy comic called Moonsprout Station. And that's like a queer comic in a fantasy setting that just mostly talks about relationships and explores different characters and relationships that they can have that sort of pays respect to different fantasy ideas and talks about them a little bit more realistically. Like if you were a character in this fantasy story, like how would that actually affect your relationships and feelings? So that's a comic that I write and draw myself. I also do illustrations and comics for other people. I'm working on a comic right now for a local organization, a nonprofit organization called Pueblo Unido, that provides support and legal aid to immigrants who are facing deportation and detention.
That is really cool. And yeah, I didn't know beforehand, but was really excited to find out that you're involved in a lot of philanthropic work.
I'm trying to.
And I did know after looking into some of your work, looking at your Patreon, and reading a little bit of Moonsprout Station, that you definitely make it a priority to emphasize, that you're trying to put a spotlight, positive spotlight on the queer community, which, without getting too personal and too deep into it here, that is something that is very important to me and the Shukapow and to Dusklight, one of our occasional co-hosts. And so it's really cool to kind of see that reflected in this area that we also have a shared interest in, of course, being the world of video games and video game music.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. It kind of speaks to like some of the goals that I have with the project, which is to, create the kind of stories that I've always loved and enjoyed, and definitely is influenced by video game worlds, the world building I see in video games, but also to have characters that have experiences and identities that mirror the ones of myself and the people that I love in my own life. So it feels great to hear that you've read it a little bit and enjoy it, and I hope that Shukapow and Dusklight enjoy it as well. Yeah,
I'm sure that they will. And that kind of leads us to some of what we're going to be talking about tonight, because one of the games that we're going to be discussing is Undertale, which of course in like the characters of Undyne and Alphys and in a lot of the fan work, it really seems to speak to that community a lot. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with the game?
Yeah, and myself and a lot of the other creators that are in my peer group were really influenced by that story. Like as soon as one of us experiences that story, it's like you're never the same, kind of.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I only recently played through it, and I didn't actually get all the way through. I was doing like a neutral route, trying to get as close as pacifist as I could. But that doesn't stop me from really loving the story and loving the music. We actually, as you are probably aware, and a lot of our listeners are, just did earlier this season an episode 5, an Undertale with Dusklight.
It was a great episode.
This is one of Dusk's favorite games, and so she took us through the story of Undertale with some of her favorite musical moments from that story. So sort of by necessity, hit a lot of the high points of the story itself, but a lot of diverse music even in that, and we really only touched on maybe a quarter of the soundtrack. It's just really, really phenomenal work. And of course, the big showstopper from this game is Megalovania, which brings us to one of the characters on our art.
Oh yeah, so just to go into the decision that we had to do this kind of trio playing music in the desert. When you first approached me, I think it was in September, when you first approached me about the design.
Yeah, because we've been talking about this for a while. That's right.
I sent you a number of different design concepts, which we can also talk about later. But we eventually did settle on having a trio of characters playing in the desert, and we can talk about how this came to be. But the only character from the original trio that remains in the design today is Sans. Sans was one of the first characters we decided to put in there, not only because we all love Sans, and this was before actually your Undertale episode came out, where you talked about in that episode how we all love Sans. But also that Sans is just so like lyrical, musical, friendly, as long as you play the game that way, I guess. And just fit in really well with the aesthetic we were trying to capture on the album cover. I said aesthetic. We should probably keep track. I don't say that too many times.
We can make like a bingo card for this particular episode, and that'll be one of the words. Yeah, Sans, of course, is a super popular character. Shukapao really loves and identifies with Sans quite a bit. He had a Sans like icon on his most recent favorite hoodie. I guess we need to get you one for your new hoodie. But he also went for went as Sans for Halloween one year, and so
no way.
Yeah, Sans is big in our house. Dusklight had a crush on Sans for a while, and of course Megalovania is a great tune. But yeah, as you said, we'll talk a little bit throughout the episode of kind of how the evolution of the art from your early concepts and our back and forth about that to eventually landing on this idea of a trio, which, yeah, the first trio did include Sans, and then how we kind of cycled through some other characters and eventually landed on the three that we landed on, who are going to be the sources of like the music that we play in this episode.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a little bit about our history with each series and each game as well.
Sure thing.
So, Naomi, if you had to narrow it down, because you said that you've got a song that we did not play on that Undertale episode, so I'm sure we'll talk a little about that here in a minute. But if you had to narrow it down, who would you say is your favorite Undertale character?
I think there are characters who I think are great for different reasons. Probably if I had to go full-on favorite, I would say Undyne. I think like Undyne is the character who I would want to be. Undyne's like my Undertale role model. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could say the same thing for Dusklight. We played 2 Undyne songs in the episode, so yeah, we really like Undyne a lot as well.
Yeah, so this first song, I came up with it because in this episode we're each gonna play one song of choice from each of the series that's represented on the podcast cover art, and it was a tough pick because you gave me first pick. But having just recently listened to your Undertale episode, there was a favorite track of mine that, and totally no judgment here because you have very good reasons for not playing this track. But because I knew there was a track that I really loved, probably my favorite track in the soundtrack that you didn't play on the Undertale episode, I was like, oh, this is too good an opportunity to throw this in here. Yeah. So tonight we're going to listen to Spider Dance from Undertale, which was released in 2015 for the PC, came out later for PlayStation 4, Vita, Switch, etc. And it's composed by Toby Fox.
was Spider Dance, Muffet's theme from Undertale, Naomi's pick for tonight. And man, I love this song, and I just love the character of Muffet. She's so cute and creepy and just totally sort of epitomizes the vibe of Undertale for me. If we hadn't let Dusklight pick the entire playlist, I think either Shukapow or I would have put this song on it. Like I mentioned earlier, we were hitting the high points of the story, and Muffet is not like a super essential character to the plot, so that's kind of why we skipped her. But yeah.
Yeah, so you were saying if you didn't let Dusklight pick the full episode, you would have played this song?
Right, yeah, because, like I said, Muffet's kind of special, meaningful to me, and obviously to you too, because you picked the song. So
yeah, exactly. I actually had
yeah, tell us a little about that.
Oh, sure thing. Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying about. Yeah, I have a lot of similar feelings about the whole. Well, I shouldn't say aesthetic again. About the way that. About the character design, just everything about the way that this character has bake sale. They've got multiple teapots. I did actually have to look up because when I played Undertale, I played through it with my friend Kevin, who had played through it a number of times before, and so he helped me play through the route of the game that he thought that I would find most interesting. So I wasn't actually sure, coming back to the track, if Muffet was actually like a bonus character who you need to go out of your way to interact with or not. And I don't think that she is. But you're right that she's not actually part of the main story. And it turns out that she was one of the characters that got added after the Kickstarter happened for the game. And she was actually designed by Michelle Tchaikovsky, who's also a webcomic artist. She makes a comic called Ava's Demon that's really like intensely beautiful. It's a full color painted webcomic. So that's what gives that character some of their like unique style and the way that they operate within the game. Musically, oh yeah, that might be a cool comic to check out. Musically, and also just the way that Toby Fox actually reached out to a bunch of different independent artists in kind of the webcomic scene to do a bunch of different character designs. And that's something that I find really cool about that game in general. Musically, I think when I was playing through Undertale, there were a couple of songs. So I have a habit, I'm not sure if it's a good one. If I know I'm going to play the game, I usually won't listen to the soundtrack at all until afterwards, because I want to hear the song for the first time, like in the situation that occurs in the game, so I get that initial connection. And then when I listen to the soundtrack later, like I'll have reflections of those memories playing the game when I'm hearing the soundtrack.
Yeah, I do kind of understand that. And I mean, obviously, you know, I feel like music is a really pivotal part of the gaming experience. So yeah, I hear what you're saying there. Yeah,
although on the flip side, I feel like I either miss or it takes me forever to get to a lot of good music that way. Like on the Mercado Bros podcast, they just did an Origami King episode. And I don't know when I'm going to play that game, but oh my gosh, the soundtrack is so incredibly good that I'm really now itching to listen to the whole thing, even though I haven't played the game yet. Which is all just to say that when I was playing through Undertale, I was hearing all of these songs for the first time, and so a lot of those songs didn't stick out for me until a second or third listen, and that's when I thought, oh, this is that song that I heard when you're interacting with Mettaton for the first time, or oh, this is a Alphys' Lab song, it has a really interesting loop or whatever. But there are a couple of songs, and Spider Dance is one of them, where as soon as it came on during the game, I was just immediately charged up. I was so excited for whatever was happening right now, because the song was so grabbing. And I don't know if I noticed the Spider Dance song is a variation on the Dummy song, which you get to hear earlier in the game. And I don't know if I even noticed that when I heard it the first time. I was just like, this song is amazing. Yeah, you hear it at the Ghost Fight too, right?
Yeah, I think Shukapow mentioned Ghost Fight.
Yeah, so it's just a song that really stood out to me in that time. And since listening to it again, it's just gotten better.
Yeah, it's a really, really great song. Yeah, I think that is kind of a good segue to... Why don't you tell us a little about the design process? Of course, from my perspective, I reached out to you back like in August, September, and basically said, hey, I need a logo. I don't know what I want. I think you've listened to some of the show, so why don't you come up with something that kind of fits the vibe, and you asked me a few questions, and we talked a little bit, but then I basically was like, yeah, just kind of show me some ideas and I can build on that. So yeah, how did that go from your side?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I kind of had two approaches when I started the design process, because I do have a lot of experience designing logos, both illustrated and not, for different things. And I also listened to your podcast a bit, so I had a little bit of an idea of the kind of vibe that you were going for. And you kind of gave a little bit of a brief, but it was pretty open-ended about what you wanted, other than that it wouldn't be like a picture of you two, which is important to get out of the way, because most podcasts that have a duo hosting the show, it's just their picture. That's very common. So certainly the first thing I did was to kind of go through my own podcast list. I listened to a lot of podcasts, all different genres, and figure out which of those podcasts had covers that really stood out to me, and what was it that made them stand out. And there were a couple of kind of tenets to that. One is that the logo, the actual title of the show, has to be really prominent and clear, and also shows that have either a graphical logo that's very readable and clear, or the portraits of some characters or real life people that are simplified and really easy to read from a small size, because you never know what size people are going to look at when they see this artwork. You want to make it something that, either using color or simplified graphics, you can tell right away what it is. So with that in mind, I put together a bunch of different samples of graphics that I thought might work, based on those tenets, and also the kind of hints that you gave me about the vibe you were going through, what I got from the show. And so what I kind of narrowed down to was a sort of like road trip. The idea of the road trip really stuck with me because, I grew up in Los Angeles, and so long driving trips are definitely a thing for me. And that was one of the places where I really got into music for the first time, because when I started driving, I was like, okay, the way I make this experience mine is by choosing the playlist. And that's certainly an area where I got heavily into video game music as well. So I definitely leaned into that theme visually. I designed some different logo treatments, and the one we ended up picking is based on kind of like the roadside diner sign visual language. I drew some desert backgrounds. There was a "why the chocobo crossed the road" kind of joke going on in there. And I think you hooked onto that one. And and I did some other typographic type of treatments, but at the end of all of the design concepts, I started thinking about how to represent, because you have two sort of time-related themes going on in your podcast. One is the historical overview of video game music as it is. So like music from the very, very beginnings of video game music, with original Mario stuff and Mega Man. And don't at me if you're an Atari person. I don't know that music very well. Spectrum ZX, I'm just getting into it. And also all the way up through modern music. But you also have the generational theme between you and Shoot Kapow, and introducing different musical concepts, and also music from like your past as a video game enthusiast. And so I started thinking about different ways that could be expressed in the cover art. I started doing like these logos with Bowser and Bowser Jr. One that is pretty fun that I'm excited to show online that I drew was just like a very simple logo that has kind of like the squid inkling character, but then next to it, there's a very pixelated blooper from... They're called bloopers, right? From Super Mario Brothers. And so, yeah, you can definitely see like a very... Between the graphical style and also just the inclusion of those characters, you can see the historical difference there. The Inklings, too, they're always wearing headphones. And so I thought that would be a cool musical... kind of musical tie-in. And then I just started drawing characters.
Yeah, there are a lot of characters and a lot of different things here. Some highlights, and yeah, I think that with your permission, of course, since this is your work, we're gonna show some of the artwork on the video on YouTube. That we always have a video that we post. Yeah. So, but I really love. I think my favorite has got to be the Chrono one. With its, you see Chrono just like standing and facing the crowd or looking at his back, and he just got his fist in the air, just like rocking this keyboard. And I also really like the Bowser Jr. one with the whole like father-kid thing. It's really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, and I'd be excited to share in this video, certainly. Yeah, and that was kind of where that exploration led me to, was like, I'm just going to start drawing characters, doing musical things that express this idea of the different eras of video game music and kind of the young and the old. Not that you're old, we're like practically the same.
yeah, no offense. But yeah, that is a really cool aspect of the show, I think, that a lot of people have kind of gravitated to. And as I've talked about before, is almost an accidental thing. But then, so how did we get from characters doing musical things to the campfire scene that we eventually ended up with?
Yeah, so once I did the Chrono and Inkling girl, I was like kind of inspired to keep drawing more of these characters. And I really have to thank you for how fun this project was, because it's rare that I just get to draw my favorite video game characters as part of my workday. I mean, I can do it as practice, but it's kind of that's more of an indulgent thing for me. So the first one I put together was Mario on the keyboard and KK Slider. And then I wanted like a as modern as possible example on the far right. So I did Cadence from Crypt of the Necrodancer and Cadence of Hyrule at like a weird kind of, I think I tried to draw like a MIDI fighter, like a beat controller type of thing, to sort of give that more modern energy. And then you took that and some of the sort of like Chocobo Desert Diner road trip drawings I had done and combined those ideas to say, you really like the desert landscape, you really like the campfire idea, like let's turn this band into the kind of main visual.
Yeah, there was just something that really spoke to me about it. It's very nostalgic, the whole like camp feel, I think, for a lot of people when they were growing up. And nostalgia, of course, is a big part of what we do here. I also have to give a shout out to the Dungeon Man image that was there for a little while.
Yeah, and same here. I have to say that after I submitted that first round of images and you wrote back saying, the campfire is great, we really want to have this campfire trio performing, but Shoot Kapow says you really need to put Dungeon Man in there.
Yeah.
I actually went on Discord and messaged like a graphic designer friend of mine, and I was like, look, I have to tell you, I just got the best client request that you're ever gonna get, which is, this is good, but you have to put Dungeon Man in there. I was so proud to hear that.
But yeah, there were quite a few beloved characters that made an appearance. For a little while there, we toyed with the idea of having Banjo and Kazooie in there in place of KK Slider, which would have been pretty cool. Don't know that Banjo is quite as recognizable as KK Slider to everybody, but he is definitely a beloved character. I actually had toyed very briefly with the idea of Cass until you showed me just how, like, what a task that would be.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really like that character too. And I think they're such a neat addition to Breath of the Wild, but it's interesting when you look back at character designs. The characters that we ended up settling on, they're all based off of a visual language that comes from like an earlier generation of video games. And that's in part because like when you're drawing characters at a small size, you think about like the Super NES, like classic RPG characters, you don't have that much detail to work with. Whereas nowadays, like you get into a Zelda game, I mean, even Link, the main character's outfits, they start to get pretty complicated when you zoom in. And so Cass, even though, they're a very recognizable character in that game, when you only have the size of like a potentially very small podcast cover art to work with, you're not going to get the same recognizability as someone like KK Slider or any of the characters we settled on. And that's interesting to lump Sans into that, because even though he's a very modern video game character, all of the character designs in that game are super simple. And Sans too, I think, was a character that was designed by webcomic artist J.N. Weidel. I don't know how to pronounce their last name. But they have a lot of familiarity with doing those simplified character designs.
Right, and is that the same artist that did the webcomic with the first, like, font-named skeleton that Sans and Papyrus kind of spun off of, or was that a different thing?
That's right. You're talking about a comic called Helvetica, and that was the inspiration for Sans and Papyrus.
Helvetica, yes, that's right. But yeah, you mentioned Link a second ago, and he did make an appearance very early on. Of course, as you mentioned, a lot of his more modern looks are pretty detailed, very precise, and so you went with something that was not quite the Toon Link style, but was a much closer to that than anything from like Twilight Princess or Breath of the Wild, which, as you said, really fits the style that you ended up going for really well. And Link is maybe my favorite character in gaming, despite the fact that he never talks. I just I love these Zelda games so much, and Link's personality to me really does shine through, despite the fact that he doesn't speak. And I've just always he's my favorite character to play as, and he was my Smash main for the longest time, and so I definitely loved having him there. But then you mentioned, we had talked about Inkling Girl, we talked about Cadence being on there, and so inclusivity started being more, I really wanted to have someone there, representing a different gender than just the guys. And so I floated to you the idea, I think this is how it went, it's been a minute now, but I think I floated to you the idea of including Zelda instead. And I think that turned out very, very well. Of course, Zelda she played the harp in Skyward Sword, never as one of her Toon iterations, but it was cool to see you implement the harp with a more Toon Zelda design in the finished product.
Yeah, that was really fun, and I do think the combination worked well because the Toon style fit better with the design that we already had. And also, it's kind of the same character, so I suppose sticklers for cross-generational Zelda activity might not be cool with the harp there, but I think it works great. Another thing that I know was important to us was also representing not just diversity in the character roster that we drew, but I think I really wanted to, because to me, each of these characters was representing a generation of video game music, and more specifically, a composer. When we had Link on there, it was kind of like the Ocarina of Time Link or Kid Link, and that brings to mind, Koji Kondo and the original melodies. But when you put in the Wind Waker style, the Toon Link Zelda, you have a much larger breadth of composers that come to mind. And so I feel like, and also Proto Man brings out diversity too, because you have Manami Matsumae in there being represented. And so I feel like that gave us a broader range of representation for the composers we were kind of alluding to with those characters.
Yes, yeah, and I really liked that aspect as well. And I think that actually might be a decent place for us to segue to my track of the night. We've been talking about the Zelda series, and of course it is a very special series to me, and so I was glad when you picked first Sans, and then Shukapao picked the Mega Man franchise to represent with his choice for the nights, because that left me with my favorite series to pick from. And the track that I decided to go with, and I'll give you a second to pull this up on your end, is it's a track that doesn't get a whole lot of airtime. It's a side quest in the Twilight Princess, and I don't believe this area is someplace that you have to go. If you do, it's not very involved, but you can do quite a bit of stuff here. This is the Hidden Village from Twilight Princess, and for anybody who hasn't played the game, Link turns into a wolf. You probably knew at least that. And in this town, you turn into a wolf, and there are a bunch of wild cats running around this ghost town, basically. And you have to, hunt. You're hunting for something. You're running around a town and digging. And while you do, this amazing, Western-style track is playing. And it's one of my favorite Zelda tunes ever because it's so different from anything else. And to me, when I look at this image that you made, this road trip Western style video game campfire image out in the deserts, this is the track that pops into my head. So from Twilight Princess, we are going to listen to Hidden Village. And that was Hidden Village from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. This game was released simultaneously on the GameCube and the Wii. In 2006, it was composed by Toru Minegishi, who I'm pretty sure was personally responsible for this track, also with soundtrack contributions from Asuka Ota and Koji Kondo.
Yay.
So yeah, what did y'all think of this?
That was pretty good.
Oh, that's a great track.
Yeah, it's not very long for a Zelda piece. A lot of them tend to go a little bit longer than that unless they're played on an ocarina. But yeah, this one is just so much fun. And it's, like I said, so different than anything else. And I love that. I've always loved that Western-style sound in games. I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't done an episode about that yet. But, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good theme.
So that is my pick from The Legend of Zelda. So, we're...
Yeah, it brought me right back. The motif that it brings in of the kind of the main overworld theme brought me right back into my memories of playing Twilight Princess. I guess I only played that game for the first time a couple years ago, so the music's still pretty fresh to me.
Very cool. Yeah, I need to go back and play Twilight Princess. I didn't play it right when it first launched because it took us a little while to get a Wii, actually.
Yeah, same.
But I did play it, gosh, it must have been at least 10 years ago now since I played. And I need to go back and go through it again, especially with HD. I haven't picked up Twilight Princess HD, but I've heard that is the way to play it now. And...
we have Wind Waker HD.
We do have Wind Waker HD, and I love it. That's the first time I ever actually beat that game. But I need to go back and play. I have borrowed Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword from a friend, but there are just too many games.
Yeah, and it's a surprisingly long
It
one.
really is.
At least for me, it took quite a while to get
Oh yeah,
through.
no, for sure. It did for me as well. And at the time, it was enormous. One area of Twilight Princess's map was the size of the whole map in Ocarina of Time. And of course, now you can say pretty much the same thing for Breath of the Wild in relation to Twilight Princess's map. But yeah, it really was.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it was very dense. There was just so much to do. And it famously, the introduction actually takes several hours to get past even like the initial phases of the game.
Sounds like Pokemon.
And Pokemon,
I played maybe an hour of Pokemon Shield today, and I'm still in that intro. I'm doing that solo run.
Pokemon is one game that did not appear in some of these rundowns. I noticed that when I looked back. I didn't see... You know what? No, that's not true, because you did do some drawings that we haven't talked about yet that were just... They didn't feature the trio. They had like the different instruments or just different symbols from the games. Dusklight actually pointed out the earlier when we were recording and talking about some of those, pointed out the picture of the Poke Flute, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, there were a couple that were more instrument focused, but I can't think of a. I feel like there might be a scene in the Pokemon anime where Meowth plays the harmonica or something as like a gag. But yeah, I can't think of any. I guess you could put Jigglypuff, right, singing, but then everyone else would be asleep.
Yep.
And then there's Chatot, which is like the Mockingbird Pokemon with an eighth note for its head.
There's Meloetta. There are a lot of musical Pokemon, but the one that I think is really like the only recognizable one to people outside of Poke fandom would probably be Jigglypuff. And you're right, that would make it a little bit hard for for the other characters to stay awake. So we opted not to.
There are a lot of fire Pokemon in Generation 4. You've got Infernape and you've got Ponyta.
Yeah, I guess.
And
fair enough.
Yeah.
The only two fire Pokemon in Generation 4.
And actually, now that we're talking about it, I do remember running by Shoot Kapow what kind of musical Pokemon there were so that I could maybe run some ideas by you when we were still spitballing. But yeah, didn't really come up with anything. Which led us to the inclusion of possibly a Mega Man character to round out our little trio. And you settled on, well, I don't remember which of our ideas it was. I remember talking about Proto Man.
Yeah, I believe that I said a Mega Man character might be good because of the composer representation. And I feel like you might have come back to me with Proto Man specifically.
That makes sense because, he's got that iconic whistle, so he's automatically a musical character. all of the robots, there's rock and roll, and then Proto Man is blues, and so there's that musical element. And Proto Man debuted, of course, in Mega Man 3, which was composed by Yasuaki Fujita, but also by Harumi Fujita, who was one of the big female composers at Capcom at the time. And along with Manami Matsumai, really is responsible for a lot of great early VGM. And yes, and then there's bass and treble. And a little bird, his name is Beat.
Right.
Rush, which of course is a musical term. That's what drummers like to do. And so we settled on Proto Man.
Player does.
Yes, true. And I love that he's got this little harmonica because it really plays up the blues element. And he just looks so cool with his sunglasses on his helmets. And even though it's nighttime, maybe you don't want to read too much into that.
I definitely wanted to give him that cool blues loner vibe.
Yes.
He's staring into the fire. That's why he has the sunglasses on.
It is definitely very, very cool. And before we get into a little bit of Mega Man talk here, I do also want to point out, of course, when Shukapau described it earlier, he mentioned the Mario, the classic note block, the ocarina from Legend of Zelda.
What about note blocks from Minecraft?
But there is... there's only so much space on a podcast image, which we do keep coming back to.
I'm not going to put two different note blocks.
Right. Now I'm picturing what that might have looked like the Mario note block on the left and then the Minecraft note block on the right. That might have been kind of cool. But and Naomi and I have actually talked about the possibility of maybe revisiting this and updating it for a future season or something like that with like a rotating roster. But we haven't decided on anything set in stone. But there is one other shout out, visual shout out on this image, and I want to see if you can point it out, Shukapau. What other game do you see maybe being referenced somewhere in this logo?
Flappy Bird?
No, the wings are not Flappy Bird. Those are the same wings that you might see on a strawberry.
Celeste?
In Celeste, yes.
Whoa! Hidden reference.
Yep, which of course does bring us back to the inclusiveness because as we know, Lena Raine has recently come out as trans and mentioned that finally it laid to rest the long-running theory that Madeline is as well, and so bringing some of the inclusion in there full circle.
We should play Pig Step under this. Because it's one of Lena Raine's most recent compositions.
Pig Step? Oh, from Minecraft?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe. You do like to recommend the under music for our conversations.
Yeah.
What's Dusklight?
It's actually confirmed that Madeline's trans.
That's what I just said.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you.
I thought you said it was
Dusklight chiming in to, yes, confirm that it was confirmed that Madeline is trans. So.
Yay.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm huge fans of everybody on the team that put Celeste together. I think they have a new studio name now. But yeah, Maddie Thorson is the lead developer behind that game. They're really great. Yeah, I just love everything they do. I actually drew those wings. Initially, I was looking at the Undertale, like, it's not a logo, but it's a seal that you see, like on Toriel's outfit. Yeah, yes. The rune. And that was originally why I drew those. And so I kind of love that it has, it could be seen as a double reference, but
cool.
I think it makes sense that you saw them much more clearly as the wings. Like, I'm very happy to to have that be the reference.
Well, here we are embodying
because
that whole...
I do love Celeste.
Yeah, here we are embodying the whole, that long and storied debate of who puts the meaning in the art. Is it the artist or is it the observer? And yep. So, and yeah, of course, why can't it be both? It's everybody. So, yeah, very cool. Are there any other references with regard to the logo, like the lettering that you used that you wanted to mention.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
To.
So the lettering actually kind of has two hidden. It has, well, the lettering is kind of, it's kind of like a bit of a mishmash, but, initially I think, and in the last time we spoke, we talked about how we're kind of going for in a road trip Americana, like neon diner sign aesthetic. And I very much wanted to maintain that. But at some point when you were talking about typography, you mentioned the Banjo Kazooie logo. And that just has such a, like, you mentioned like playful as a verb. You really, or as a adverb?
Yes.
Playful? No, adjective?
Playful.
I guess
adjective.
Playful is an adjective.
Playful. Adjective, yes.
Yeah, you mentioned playful as a way that you like to describe the vibe of your show. And that fits the Banjo-Kazooie logo very well. It has this kind of jaunty, fun typography. And so I looked at that, and I also, for some reason, well, I guess for good reason, Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong Country style are kind of tied together in my mind. And so with that, gave me the idea to do the second O in the Very Good Music logo as a star, as kind of a throwback to Donkey Kong Country, like star barrel design. And also, of course, Kirby, which is full of music that we all love. To kind of be part of there too.
Yep, I did toy with the idea of maybe having Kirby on the mic in the picture, but that presented not the exact same problem as Jigglypuff, but everybody else would have exploded, so...
Yeah. And there is a earlier sketch, which you'll see, one of the ones that has Dungeon Man in it, does have like a little Kirby flying by on a star in the background.
Yes, I love that. Definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll throw it back up on the video now if I can remember while I'm editing, because I love that image with Dungeon Man and Kirby so much, and it's just so cool. There's so much about everything that went into this logo that just brings out all of like 12-year-old Bedros nostalgia for these games, and it's just perfect. I love it so much. If I haven't gushed enough.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I have to say, it felt similar. Like I said, I don't have too much opportunity to just sit down and have fun drawing these types of characters. And one of the things that got me into drawing in the first place was when I was younger. And I didn't always have access to the new video games that were out, or in some cases at all. I'd sit down and just draw these characters, and I could very rarely draw them to my satisfaction, where I really felt that they were embodying the liveliness that they had in their original illustrations. And so to be able to come back to some of those characters like Proto Man or Zelda characters and do that is always really, really fun.
Well, I'm very glad to have been able to give you the opportunity, and I envy you as well. Dusklight, my daughter, is an artist, a visual artist, as are you. And Shukapao, of course, is a composer, and I have done some dabbling in composition before. I am not by any stretch a visual artist. Even if I committed myself to it, I don't really think I could get too far beyond anything like Undertale level when it comes to art. I don't have the manual dexterity for it. I don't think there's something about something about an artist's eye that I just don't have. My skill set really lies, I think, in more like connecting and refining and taking something that is there and trying to maybe show it in a new light and bring something new out of it or bring some new appreciation to it. But I really super, super admire and respect creatives like all of you. And yeah, glad to be able to give you the opportunity to stretch those creative muscles in a fun way and in a way that was really enjoyable for you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I do know that you certainly have, I guess I don't know if I would call it an eye for detail, but you definitely have paid a lot of great attention to detail. And I do think that is something that's important, even if you're not making visual art, to be coordinating it coordinating a piece of visual art like we did with this podcast cover.
A friend of mine likes to joke that my skill set shines when I have somebody else's work to work with, which is not untrue.
Yeah, that's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, I'm much more of an editor than I am a creator, and I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. But I also really, really enjoy playing games, and one of the games I actually spent quite a bit of time on earlier this year was the Mega Man Legacy Collection. I only got up through about halfway through Part 6 before I fell off the wagon. I was actually playing
Mega
simultaneously
Man Part 6.
with a friend from another podcast community, Dan Loughton, who is a fellow fan of several other VGM podcasts, and he has gone all the way through. I'm pretty sure that he went through and played all the Mega Man classic games, 1 through 11, whereas I stopped at 6. But after Mega Man 3, Proto Man is in all of them. So, Shukapow, I think that is going to bring us to your pick for the night. You had toyed with the idea of bringing something from a Mega Man X game or even a spin-off, because for once I gave you absolutely no boundaries. I said you can pick anything from any Mega Man game.
I mean, that's a boundary. It has to be from
Battle Network.
And you kind of surprised me a little bit. You actually did pick something based on a song from Proto Man's original game, Mega Man 3. Why don't you tell us a little about what you picked and how you came to your decision?
All right. I have brought Snake Man's theme from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yes. Why this version of this theme?
I don't know. It's just better than the original.
I don't know if I'd go that far because I'm nostalgic for those chippy sounds. And as you know, Mega Man 3 is my favorite Mega Man soundtrack. We already talked about that on our last season finale. And we're going to be talking about this theme a little bit more. Either that or we just talked about it really recently. Like I said, not sure exactly when this podcast is going to drop. But Snake Man's theme is probably going to feature on our final episode of the year, our 2020 in review episode. So I'm not going to talk too much about it now, but before we get into the track, Naomi, what is your musical or gamer history with the Mega Man franchise?
Oh, Mega Man was one of the first games that I ever played. Back before I had any home consoles, I would go to a friend's house, and I can't remember if he owned the games or if he had just rented them, but I remember playing through both, or I remember playing primarily Mega Man 3, and so it's actually some of the earliest, not just video game music, but just plain music that I remember kind of sticking in my head and remembering.
Very cool. Yeah, I talked some on our first season finale about my early experiences also with Mega Man 3, and it's really one of my defining gaming experiences. And I didn't really start noticing video game music a lot until Sonic 3 and Link to the Past. Those were the first two games that really jumped out at me. But when I did start to really garner an appreciation for them and went back to some of my old games, of course, Mega Man was one of the series that jumped out to me right away because it's just so fantastic. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the Snake Man remix from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
fascinating that they go into like a synth lead after the B section. It's kind of like one of the Final Fantasy VII remake tracks where they like play an alternate version of the song and like then they play it more akin to the original composition to be like, yeah, we made our own version, but also here's the old sound.
Speaking of Final Fantasy VII, Mega Man 7 and Final Fantasy VII were both like really different from the first 6. But Final Fantasy VII did much better than Mega Man 7.
That is interesting. Yeah, they were definitely departures from the style of the games that came before them, but Mega Man 7 was just okay on a good day, whereas Final Fantasy VII is one of the icons of the industry now. That's a good point. The music in Mega Man 7, though, is actually really good. The Marcato Bros actually, I think they did either a feature on it or they featured it pretty heavily fairly recently. And
yeah, they have a whole episode. I think.
Yes.
I think that's the only time I've ever really heard it, but it was a good episode.
It really was. But Chukpao, tell us a little about that track. So this was originally released for Mega Man 3 in 1990, and composed by
1990.
Yes, composed by Yasuaki Fujita. But this remake was released when?
Oh, yeah, it was released in 2018 with Smash Ultimate for the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Composed by Hideki. No, the arrangement supervisor was Hideki Sakamoto.
Right. Hideki Sakamoto, most famous for some of his work with Hudson on the Bomberman series. Also did some work on Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time and Darkness. And yeah, not a whole lot else that I am super familiar with. Was apparently the music director on Castlevania Judgment, which, speaking of games that are widely panned, but tell you, did a great job on this one. And yeah, Naomi, you were talking about the instrumentation. I love the violin that like opens up the piece, and then it definitely does go some places.
Yeah, I felt like it was I was playing like a JRPG from sometime within the last 5 years, like Xenoblade Chronicles or something.
Yep. Yeah, it was really, really good. Love that theme so much. Snake Man is one of the weirdest robot masters. Like, he's a robot wearing a snake costume.
His power is snakes.
He shoots snakes out of his snake hand. And why Dr. Wily decided to make a Snake Man, you know what? I actually have to look it up, because all the robot masters were created for some reason. Like, backstory. They have a job.
Yeah, like in the first ones, they were all invented by Dr. Light.
Okay, so he's a robot master with a snake motif created by Dr. Wily and Dr. Light to investigate narrow areas and survey topography on uninhabited planets marked for development.
That does not explain why the robot looks like a snake as well.
He was well suited to shoot snakes up walls.
I don't think the outfit is explained by that description.
It's really not. Like, he's a humanoid robot. Maybe he actually can, like, shrink into just the snake helmet form and become, like, just this bigger version of the snakes he fires.
Snake.
And then, like, he
kinda
has
like
his...
Solid snake.
Yeah.
Metal snake.
Robot snake.
Metal snake.
Yeah, metal snake. And then, yeah, he has this humanoid form that he can appear in so that he doesn't, like, completely creep people out. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, he, like, fires his little...
Snake!
But yeah, he, like, fires his little snake guys as, like, to go into the areas that he can't go to and explore where he can't get. And also to chase Mega Man up walls, apparently. So, yeah. This was really fun. Before we get into our little bonus area here at the end, Naomi, what else would you like to say about the artwork and about this wonderful journey that we kind of went on together in making the logo for the podcast?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think we actually went through it pretty thoroughly. I mean, we did go over, how we came to the trio. I think color-wise, that was, sometimes coloring in artwork can be a lot of trial and error and confusion, but because you had that desert nightscape idea from the get-go, it was pretty clear direction to know where to go there. So I think we went over it pretty well, unless you have any other questions about the overall process or digital art or anything like that.
No, like you said, it's really fun watching things come together like that. And I think my only other question about the art itself is for both of you. If you could pick a fourth character that we could somehow squeeze into this picture, who would you pick?
Oh, gosh.
And what would they be playing? I know my answer, but I'll go first.
Oh, so you already have one. You already have one prepared.
Yeah, so wouldn't be fair of me to put you on the spot like that.
I suppose the obvious choice. Well, there was an earlier version where we had a chocobo. I do like the idea of having a chocobo in there to, like, roaming across the desert, that kind of thing.
Yep, that would be really cool.
There's also, when you think about campfires, another kind of obvious option would be to have a boo.
Oh yeah.
Hiding behind them, like they're all telling ghost stories around the fire, and maybe like a boo creeps up on them or something like that. I don't know what they would play.
I don't know either. That's interesting. That's cool. What about you, Shukapow? Maybe Boo could have like a little carry-on bone xylophone that it could be playing. Like you see
that would be
marching band,
amazing.
The xylophones you can march around with. What do you think? Well, while you're thinking about it, I'll go ahead and say mine. So I would definitely bring back KK Slider.
Yeah.
I loved the way he looked. I think one of the reasons also that I decided to sub him out for somebody a little more colorful was that he had kind of similar color scheme to Sans, minus Sans' iconic blue jacket, and I thought that might possibly bring just a little bit of homogeneity to the image where we really wanted something that kind of popped, something that was vibrant and would stand out among all the other logos. But he's just perfect for the scene.
I agree.
What about you? What do you think?
Probably KK Slider.
Okay. All right. Good enough.
It is good to have it is good to have another, guitar playing character in there. Aren't too many of those.
That's true. You got.
I guess I would probably dig into, like, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but one of my main favorite genres of video games is rhythm and musical games.
Oh yeah, cool.
And so, I immediately thought of, like, well, Guitar Man obviously should belong in there, but, like, nobody else played that game, right?
Oh yeah, Guitar Man. Yes, of course.
Yeah, for PlayStation 2 and later for
I feel
PSP,
like a lot of the VGM fans would totally love that reference, but anybody who was just kind of new to the scene would be like, who is this supposed to be? What's going on?
Yeah. Oh, and how could we forget, like, Parappa the Rapper?
Yep, Parappa the Rapper. You got, this is not a musical or rhythm game, but Parappa always reminds me of the monkey guy in Samba de Amigo.
Oh, sure.
Barbara the Bat, actually, who is a Smash Bros. Assist trophy, originally appeared in a composition game called Jam with the Band. Yeah, that Skeletroy, who composed the theme song for the show, uses to do all of his SNES Thrash remixes.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So, I also really, really love music and rhythm games. Maybe when we finally get around to doing a topic, you can come back and join us for that episode.
Oh, I would be so very, feel so very welcome to be in an episode like that.
All right, we will definitely put that down for sometime in 2021.
Oh, thank you.
That sounds amazing. But okay, let's go ahead and get into our little bonus special here. We do have one fourth song that we're going to close out with after Naomi tells us everywhere that she can be found. And but before we get to that, we're going to try to guess what that song is, because when we were talking about what tracks we were going to pick for this episode, you mentioned that you have got a favorite Zelda track that we haven't played yet, but that you thought it...
As far as I know.
As far as you know, yeah. But that you thought it might not be... this bonus episode might not be the best place to debut it, but I respectfully disagree. I think it would be great to commemorate your first guest spot on the show with this your favorite Zelda track, and so you and I have been going back and forth, and you've been giving me some hints as to what it might be. Like you told me that you think it's been in 2 mainline Zelda games, and so my mind went to A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds, since they're related to each other in that way. But you said no, it's not those. So I am frankly stumped, and so I think it might be fun for you to throw a few more hints out.
Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask?
To me and Shoot Kapow. And no, actually, I guessed Ocarina of Time early on, and she said it's not from that either.
Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass.
Okay, hold on. So, okay, I guess so, yeah. Naomi, he guesses, you mentioned 2 mainline Zelda games. Is it a song from Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass?
So you're close. It is definitely in one of those games. But it is the second game that it is in is not Phantom Hourglass.
Oh, so it's something in Wind Waker and something else.
Hyrule Warriors?
I think I know what it is.
You know what it is now,
and
huh?
We have not played this song, and it is also one of my favorites.
I thought it might be. But that's part of the reason why I thought you might want to...
Spirit Tracks!
Nope, not Spirit Tracks. If I'm right, it's not in Spirit Tracks.
But that was the last Toon game, wasn't it?
Maybe that means its reappearance was not in a Toon game.
But then there weren't any other sequels to...
Okay, I'm going to give Shukapow a hint that is going to give him the answer that I think it is, and then you can tell us if we're right.
Okay, that sounds good.
This is Dusklight's favorite Zelda track.
What's your favorite Zelda track? I mean...
You just said her real name. That's okay, I can bleep it out.
Josh, what's your favorite Zelda track?
I don't know.
It's the one from Wind Waker, isn't it?
Which
Ooh, it's Dragon Roost Island, isn't it?
Yeah, Dragon Roost Island. I like Dragon Roost Island.
Is it Dragon Roost Island?
All right. Ba-da-da-da.
Yes! Oh, man. Oh, that's amazing. That is a really, really great tune. And Shukapow, what is the second game that it appeared in? We were talking about Cass earlier.
Oh yeah, the Reno Village in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Which is a great rendition. I am still kind of partial to the first one, but I love it.
Definitely.
It's one of my favorite tracks in Breath of the Wild, and probably, I don't know. It's hard to say if it's my favorite track in Wind Waker, because Wind Waker is just so jam-packed full of great music. But it's up there. It's a fantastic choice. And no, I can't think of a better song to go out on tonight. So, very, very, very cool.
Well, thank you so much. It was fun to watch the process as you both guessed it. I knew you would get it eventually.
Well, very cool. So yeah, we got to watch you go through the process of coming up with this fantastic logo, and then you got to watch us go through the process of guessing your songs. So that's exactly the same thing. But oh man, Naomi, this has been a delight. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode and for working with our family's crazy schedule to record not on one but 2 nights.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure. I really, as I built the logo, and the cover art, I listened to more and more of the episodes, and yeah, I've definitely become a regular listener of the show, and so it's really a pleasure and an honor to spend some time chatting with you about this musical subgenre that we both really enjoy.
Definitely
The
so.
Legend of Zelda.
Definitely so. Very, very much. And so why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners, as if they can't see it in the show notes every single week, where can they find you?
Oh, thank you so much. Sure thing. So the best place to find me is on Patreon at patreon.com/Naomi Rubin. That's NaomiRubin. I also publish a fantasy comic, Moonsprout Station, for free. that anyone can read at moonsproutstation.com.
All right, very cool. So as always, links will be in the show notes, so everybody go ahead and go check those out. As usual, you can write into the show at verygoodmusicvgm@gmail.com. You can find Shukapow at Shukapow on Twitter.
Yeah.
You can also go to YouTube to comment on this and all of the other videos and episodes, and listen to playlists that include not necessarily just the songs we play in the episode, but maybe also some runners-up or some in-between songs. And you can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/VGMVGM, where you can get access to some cool bonus features. And Shukapow, am I forgetting anything?
Check out my music.
Where?
On flat.io at Loiter Reading for Smash.
And maybe, hopefully someday soon, you will get to change the name of your flat.io accounts. Shukapow's got this conspiracy theory because Sephiroth actually just recently was announced.
Yeah,
well, as we record, Sephiroth was recently announced. And I don't know if we were actually recording when we talked about it earlier. So, yeah, we mentioned that Lloyd's costume is the only one that has not reappeared from Smash 4, which Shukapow thinks makes it very likely that Lloyd will be one of the last 3 characters revealed. So
either that or one of the last
me
15
costumes.
or so me costumes.
Right. Watch, it's going to be somebody else from Bandai Namco, and Lloyd's going to be the me costume.
That's depressing.
What a great note to end on. But, okay. I think that is going to do it for us.
He wouldn't do that, though. He's like the number 1 voted in Japan.
Yeah, Nintendo would never do anything that would make their fans unhappy.
I got you there.
And on that note, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. We will see you next time. Naomi, thanks once again.
Oh, thank you too.
So, until next time, I'm Ben Roth.
And I'm Shukapow.
Play very good games.
Be very good people.
And keep listening to very good music.
Hi everyone. So, okay, I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. I mean, everybody knows this song, right? It's awesome. I'll let it play a little bit when I'm done. But a little bit of quick top of the show business. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. It is really, really exciting to have had you along for this trip. And sorry I didn't get this episode up on the 1st like I had originally planned, but then it worked out fairly well for me to have one more weekend and then let it out on Tuesday, the Tuesday in between episodes. So this is the official, I guess, first episode of the new year, even though it's a bonus. The first episode proper, of course, will be 1 week from today as you're hearing this, Platformers with ProfJeff. 2 weeks after that, we're going to be doing our Zelda Towns episode, and then 2 weeks after that, we will be releasing our 2-part special of Mega Man X versus Mega Man X3 featuring Skeletroy. We have already recorded it. It was a blast. It's going to be jam-packed with fantastic music, and I really hope that you all enjoy it. We're also planning on possibly a little bonus episode in February that y'all can probably figure out what the topic's going to be. We're not going to make it too schmaltzy. I know it's kind of a divisive day for a lot of people, but I promise we'll keep it upbeat, keep it happy. And then we're going to be getting into Season 3. Which is kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit. Number 1, Season 3 is going to be a little bit shorter. We had toyed with the idea of keeping kind of how we started, which was sort of accidentally a spring, summer, and then fall, winter schedule, which is what Seasons 1 and 2 have been. But I don't know, I'm a calendar guy, and I kind of like the idea of having a January to June schedule and then a July to December schedule. So I think that's where we're going to go after Season 3. So Season 3 is going to be a little bit shorter. We are going to try to pack more things in. If you are a patron, you can go to patreon.com and see the tentative schedule that we have up. We currently have 4 open slots, and those are going to be for our patron picks. We have a poll up on Patreon as well. $1 a month can get you access to these polls, to this this schedule and to a shout out on every episode for you and for any work that you would like us to shout out. So if you would like to, go to patreon.com/VGMVGM and, sign up. Like I said, $1 a month. If you can spare it. I know we all are still, of course, sort of in the midst of this COVID crisis, so whatever you can do. And you know what? If you would like to know what it is that we're doing, but you can't afford to be a patron, just shoot me an email, verygoodmusicvgm@gmail.com, and, we can talk about it a little bit. I love fan interaction, so I will jump at the chance to, have any more communication with anyone who is out there but just hasn't really found a good way to interact yet. On that note, we also now officially have a Discord. I will be posting a link in the show notes of this episode on YouTube. So if you haven't checked it out, it works just kind of like a chat room, and you can click the link, go there. It's not super jumping right now, but I have been making a few announcements there. And, you can come, interact. It's a place to leave your comments about the show. And, so be looking for that as well. So season 3 is going to end in June, and for season 4, I think we're going to start kind of a new-ish thing. The second season of the year is always going to have fall in it. So I think we're going to start doing what is called a fall focus, where we're going to do a season-long feature on a certain macro topic. Composers, series, consoles, different ideas that we have where we can kind of fit a whole series of episodes, a season full, where we have that's kind of our guiding focus for each episode. And then in the spring season, we'll do more of grab bag stuff, sort of the random ideas that don't really fit anywhere else, games we haven't played before, or stuff like that. Some of the stuff you've heard in this season. That'll sort of enable us to kind of tick off some of the common things that you might hear in a podcast without getting too tropey, still having some randomness in there from time to time. But I think that is going to just about do it. Probably getting ahead of myself a little bit, but you know what? Having goals and making them public keeps me doing this and keeps me from procrastinating too much. So, as always, any ideas are welcome. We love to hear from y'all. You can talk to Shukapow at Shukapow on Twitter. You can find us on Discord now. You can talk to us on YouTube. Just search Very Good Music, VGM Podcast. You can download this pretty much anywhere. Our home is anchor.fm/VGMVGM. And one last time, if you like the show and you would like to support us, would like access to some kind of cool stuff, check us out on patreon.com/VGMVGM. You can also always email us requests, comments, complaints, sarcastic remarks, dad jokes, whatever you want, at verygoodmusicvgm@gmail.com. Thanks once again for joining us. Happy New Year, and we will see you next week. Now, let's get back to Dragon Roost Island. And while we listen to it, I'm going to look up all of the composer information because there's a lot. Oh, and Shukapow, I don't know if I've told you, but at the end of the episode, we're going to play a little game. I have been trying to guess a track from Naomi. She said that she's got a a Zelda tune.
Right, a favorite
Yes,
Zelda
a favorite
track.
Zelda track that she would have picked if she had had a Zelda franchise to pick from. But at first you said you thought it was it was too good for this little bonus episode. But I am so excited to find out what it is, and she's going to give us some hints and see if we can guess.
Okay, I'm trying to pull up the song too, but I think my audio is being stolen by Discord.
Oh, gotcha.
But maybe if I put it in the Discord, it'll work. Yeah? No? No? Huh. Okay, I guess I'm playing it on my iPhone then.
Okay.
This one's in Smash, isn't it?
I think so.
I hear. Apparently a new update as well. Oh yeah, the Sephiroth challenge.
I love it when the trumpets come in.
Yeah, trumpet.
Yep. And yep, it's not a very long loop. That's about all there is to it.
Yeah.
But all right, I will read us back in. 1 second. Chukapow is checking this. He thinks that this song is in Smash.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
Wants to make sure.
Oh.
Teenager's curiosity has to be satisfied.
Was that Kenta Nagata, the Twilight Princess? Can't remember.
So that was Toru Minegishi, actually. It was the main composer.
Right.
For Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Kenta Nagata, I think, was... I know he... they worked on Wind Waker. I think they also did... I can't remember if they did Phantom Hourglass. I feel like they had a hand in Skyward Sword. Yeah, now I have to look up that. Wind Waker and Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition and Link's crossbow training. So
yeah, I thought.
Okay.
Oh no.
Actually, it has a pretty cool title theme, but that's about it. There wasn't a whole lot to that game.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, here it is.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's just too bad to have your music lost to the ages on a title like that.
I know, right?
There's not going to be a Switch re-release of that one.
And yes, also did work on Phantom Hourglass, but that was pretty much it. Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, and this is reporting a game called Navi Trackers, which I've never heard of. Legend of Zelda Navi Trackers, which I've never heard of before.
Huh.
True.
Okay, before I get off on too much of a tangent here, let's not bring up Hey You Pikachu again. Okay, Navi Trackers is a game mode of The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures that is only available in the Japanese and Korean versions of the game.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, all right, I'll go ahead and read us back in now. So stop pushing buttons. And that's a wrap.